Calico Joe Chapter 3. Sarah and I met during our sophomore years at the University of Oklahoma. We married a month after we graduated. Warren was invited to both the commencement exercises and the wedding, but failed to show. This surprised no one. Again, just showing what a cruddy father Warren really was. He was never there for his kids. We have 3 beautiful daughters and live in Santa Fe, where I write software for an aerospace firm. Sarah was an interior designer until the girls came along, and she decided to become a full-time mother. Not surprisingly, I was thrilled with each birth, each healthy baby, and not the least disappointed in the gender God selected for us. I did not want a boy, because I did not want to see him pick up a baseball and start tossing it around. Most of my friends have a boy or two, and they have all coached this game at some level. I'm sure I would have felt the temptation to do likewise with a boy, so I am relieved to have all girls. So you can kind of see, like, psychologically, for whatever reason, something happened in the past to where now the narrator wants nothing to do with the game of baseball, even though he was obsessed with it as a kid. I quit the game when I was 11 years old and haven't watched an inning in 30 years. So not only did he quit playing when he was 11 years old, but he hasn't watched baseball in 30 years. You have to be actively avoiding baseball to miss it because, you see it everywhere. It's on all the time. My employer is one of those progressive companies with all manner of benefits and flexible work rules. I could practically work from home, but I enjoy the office, my colleagues, even my bosses. It's exciting to watch the technology spring to life, evolve, and eventually hit the market. I explained to my boss that I need a few days off for a quick trip unrelated to my job. He says fine. I tell Sarah my plans, and she understands completely. She knows the history, and I guess we both have known this trip would one day become inevitable. I drive to the airport in Santa Fe and buy a one-way ticket to Memphis. When Warren was 35 years old, he managed to persuade an old friend in the Orioles organization to give him one final tryout in spring training. He could still throw hard, but he had no control. Plus, his name was toxic and no other team would touch him. He bombed in his first appearance and was cut the next day. He called home and informed my mother he planned to stay in Florida, where supposedly some minor league team wanted him as a pitching coach. This was not true, and I knew it. I was 12 by then and well aware that my father was a habitual liar. A few months later, she filed for divorce, and when the school year ended, we moved to Hagerstown, Maryland, to live with her parents. Warren Tracy retired from the game with a record of 64 wins and 84 losses, a career earned run average of 5.585. In 16 seasons, he played for the Pirates, Giants, Indians, Royals, Astros, and Mets, and spent more time in the minors than in the majors. His 3-year stint with the Mets was his longest stay anywhere, and they sent him down to AAA at least 4 times. He struck out 430 batters and walked 416. His name is in the record book only because he led the league in hit batsmen in 1972. So think about that. The only reason why you have any kind of record is because you are a pitcher who has hit the most batters. That's not something you want to be known for. He was never happy anywhere, and when he wasn't being traded, he was demanding to be traded. Not a particularly stellar career, but baseball fans know that only 1 player out of 10 who signs a minor league contract makes it to the bigs for a single game. When I was very young and still impressionable, I was proud of the fact that my father was a major leaguer. No other kid on my street could make that claim. As I grew older, though, I often wished I had a normal dad who enjoyed having a catch in the backyard and coaching his son. When he was with the Mets, he left for spring training each year in early January, long before he was supposed to report. He used various excuses for this, but the reality was that he wanted to get away from home, to play golf every day, to work on his tan, and to drink and catch up with the old girlfriends. Jill and I didn't care what excuse he used. We were relieved to have him back on the road. After the year in Hagerstown, my mother informed us that he had remarried down in Florida. Jill and I thought this was terrible news because he and his new wife might decide to start a family. So if you look back over these past few paragraphs, it talks about the narrator's father, Warren Tracy, and kind of like what a terrible person he was. He was not a good father, not a good husband, and honestly, not that great of a baseball player. And what he's known for is having the record for hitting the most batters in a single season. On the leg from Dallas to Memphis, so now we're jumping forward to the present, I opened my scrapbook on Joe Castle. It is filled with newspaper clippings, magazine articles, the August 6th edition of Sports Illustrated, with Joe on the cover, and the item I have treasured most during that remarkable summer of 1973, an 8x10 black and white photo of his youthful, smiling face. Across the bottom, he had printed neatly, "To Paul Tracy, with best wishes," then scribbled his autograph. I had a whole collection of these when I was a boy. My buddies and I wrote letters to hundreds of professional players, asking for autograph photos. Occasionally one responded, and to get a photo in the mail was a reason to strut. My father got a few of these letters, but was too important to grant a favor. He constantly griped about the fans who wanted autographs. So again, Warren Tracy, terrible person. I hid my scrapbooks from my father. In his twisted opinion, he was the only player worthy of my adulation. After I quit the game, my mother secretly stored my memorabilia in the attic. She gave it back, 2 cardboard boxes full, after I got married. At first I wanted to burn it, but Sarah intervened, and it survives until this day. I have never been in Memphis in August, and when I step out of the airport terminal, I have trouble breathing. The air is hot and sticky, and my shirt is wet within minutes. I ride a shuttle to Avis, get my rental car, crank up the AC, and head west, across the Mississippi River, into the flat farmlands of the Arkansas Delta. Calico Rock is 4 hours away. And who is from Calico Rock? That is going to be Joe Castle. So this book goes back and forth between the past and the present. And so we get to hear about the narrator's life when he's a kid, and in the present, that is when his father, Warren Tracy, is dying of pancreatic cancer, and apparently the narrator has jumped on a plane, and he is driving now to Arkansas, and not just anywhere in Arkansas, but Calico Rock, where Joe Castle is from, but we don't know why.